ready to run it back. The Liberty, ready to run it back. The Dream... Oops, sorry. That was a voice crack into burp. That's fun. Well, Ken said you could put that at the beginning of the episode. Sup, nerds? It's basketball. Welcome to Horse, a basketball podcast about everything except for the wins and losses. My name is Mike Schubert, and I'm joined by my trusted co-host, me going to the Indiana Pacers game where they played the Knicks, and it was one of the greatest games I've ever seen in my life, to this person joining me at that game. It's Adam Amawala. Adam, how's it going?
You know, it's going well. I have been blessed to attend many an NBA game, and I have to say that one is up there. It's one of the best games I have ever attended, and I can't believe I'm saying this openly on a recording that will exist in perpetuity because of the internet, but kind of made me want to root for the Knicks. I'm not going to say I'm a Knicks fan, but it kind of made me want to root for the Knicks.
It's fun. It was a great game. Shout out to our friend Micah, who was able to hook us up with some quite nice tickets. So thank you so much, Micah. But it was a delightful experience, and it was a cool come from behind win. And the Knicks at that point had won 8 games in a row prior to the game. And then we were at this one, and they started off quite poopy. They were not playing very well.
Indeed.
Calls weren't going their way. The Pacers were making everything. And early on, I was like, of course, the one game that I decide to go to this run is the one game we're going to lose out of the past 8. Are you kidding me? And then just Tyrese Halliburton decided to get in Dante DiVincenzo's face. He got in the big Ragu's face. And when you get in the big Ragu's face, things get saucy. And Dante DiVincenzo gave him a great little push on the boob. And from that moment on, the Knicks just started chipping away, chipping away. And it culminated in us finally winning and the Garden erupting. It was a sold out crowd. It was so loud, I felt like the roof was going to cave in. And then after the game, Jalen Brunson, who had just been announced as an all-star for the first time before the game started, got emotional in the little post-game interview. I'm so glad because people are starting to leave, but not as many as usual. And I was like, oh, they're interviewing Jalen Brunson. We should stay. And then he got choked up and stuff. I'm so glad we stayed. It was so cute. Oh, it was amazing.
This is the kind of blatant tampering that I can get on board with, frankly.
Look, it is clearly the most successful tampering that has ever taken place, and I love it. For anyone unaware, we got hit with a tampering accusation that turned out to be true. It was super duper true, where we had started negotiating with Jalen Brunson before we were allowed to in NBA free agency, which everyone does. It's just a matter of how obvious do you make it. And because the Knicks had hired his dad a couple months prior, it was super obvious. So we had to get rid of a second round pick or something. Oh no. Oh gee whiz. Oh man. I'm so sad we can't have another Mindaugas Kuzminskis on the team.
Oh goodness.
But he's a real guy. He was great. He was really nice. I need to think of someone who we drafted that wasn't good. Maurice Endower. He's another second round pick that never really panned out. But my goodness gracious, what great tampering. I really did think of that because the Knicks did this adorable thing where they posted these 2 videos, one about Jalen Brunson and one about Julius Randle, where their family members were saying nice things about them, congratulating them. And there was a lot of stuff from Rick Brunson, Jalen's dad, about Jalen. And it was really sweet. And Rick seems like a great guy. But after that minute and a half of Rick saying nice things about Jalen, I was like, yeah, I'm glad we hired this guy and got hit with a tampering charge. This is really nice.
Yep. Also, you got to meet Knicks legend Bernard King, just like in the concourse.
Which was super cool. I don't know what was going on, but I think my understanding and the reason why I didn't take a photo with him like you asked me is it seemed like it was like some sort of charity thing. It felt like a charity thing of like donate some money and then get a photo with Bernard King.
Right.
But they were setting it up. So he was just standing there and you saw someone who was very tall and very well dressed.
Exactly, yeah.
And given context clues.
There's just something about someone that large in that nice of a suit where I'm like, that can't just be like a guy.
Right. Especially the context of being in the Knicks arena. Like a very tall person, well dressed, setting up something feels like a Knick of years past. Right. So I looked, and before I could even look at the person, there was someone behind us, and you had asked loud enough. I would have clocked it. I couldn't even see because it wasn't facing us, but some guy goes, "That's Bernard freaking King." And then I was like, oh, and I went up to Bernard and I said just loudly, "Bernard!" And He looked, and I was like, thanks for everything you did for the franchise. He put his hand out for a fist bump, and then I said, they need to retire your shit ASAP, referring to how his jersey isn't retired, which has been a contentious thing because he only played for the Knicks for 4 years, but it was a really, really good 4 years. So it's one of those tricky jersey retirement things. I don't know that we ever will retire it, but...
And also Randall wears his number, right?
Yeah, but the Knicks have done things. They have 2 jerseys of the same number retired, and I don't think that they would shy away from it. I wonder if it ever got to a point where we were going to retire Julius's number, I wonder if they would do something where like a couple months before they'd be like, let's retire Bernard Kings, like no harm, no foul kind of thing. But he said, thank you. I appreciate it. He laughed when I said they need to retire your jersey. And then we went on to our seats. A+ all around.
Indeed.
Fist bump Bernard King.
Indeed. Now, before we get into the Teal Memorial locker room, which I'm sure is upcoming here, I will say that as we record this on Tuesday, February 6th, last night I got to check off a bucket list item for me, which was to see Steph Curry play in person. I know you're still waiting to see LeBron. You had considered going to see the Knicks play the Lakers, which I'm sure worked out well given that the Knicks lost that game. But,
yes, and the tickets never were below $400. Yeah. I foolishly thought, they'll, drop the day of, especially, but I wonder if this factored into it. LeBron was listed as questionable up until like an hour before the game. So I was like, well, I'm not going to drop a lot of money. So maybe I'll see him when he plays the Nets, when the Nets are even worse at the end of March when he comes to Brooklyn.
For anyone looking to buy tickets to like a marquee matchup, I recommend getting tickets like a couple days before. That's what I found, because same thing for the Warriors Nets game that I went to last night. Like tickets were the cheapest probably towards the end of last week, and then they started going up pretty dramatically over the weekend. So it's like as soon as you have a hunch that the person you want to see playing is playing, that's probably the time to buy the tickets. But what I was going to say in all of this, and I think you will appreciate this sentiment, is that it is not even remotely close how much better the MSG basketball watching experience is compared to the Barclays Center. Now, I will give the caveat that you and I had very, very nice seats for the Knicks game, so I think when you're closer to the court, you do feel a little more involved in the action. But, I mean, my God, I really think there were more people in Warriors jerseys last night than there were Nets fans. And it was a close game for most of it. The Warriors ended up winning late. I got there very early to see Steph warm up, which was really cool. We'll post some videos of that. And he had a nice game. He had like 29, I think. But it just, like, no one seemed into it at all. The only moments where anyone seemed excited were when Steph had the ball and shot a 3. And other than that, even when the Nets did, like, objectively interesting and exciting things, there's just no energy in that arena at all. And this is the part where I think you probably won't like this comment as much, but Barclays Center reminds me of New Yankee Stadium, where it's like, it just feels very corporate and sterile. And I'm like, this is not how this experience is supposed to be.
New Yankee Stadium is sad. It's one of those things where old Yankee Stadium, baseball reference,
ding, 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 ding,
was just this iconic arena. It was so great, but also it objectively needed to be torn down because people were literally falling off of railings and suffering injuries. Like it needed to be either heavily renovated or just demolished and a new one built. But yeah, the new one is very corporate and stale. The Barclays Center, I feel like, is just, as I've said on the podcast before, it's just too tall. You just feel so far away from the action. That being said, Barclays is great for a concert.
Agreed.
Because I think the acoustics are really good. And I think when you're at a concert, if you're not like at floor seats, you kind of anticipate being really far away and honestly watching the screens a lot. So I don't think it hurts as much. But basketball games at Barclays are tough. And the Knicks, just by being like
I think you got to sit in the lower section, which I could not afford last night.
That's the problem, is I just feel like the price jump between the lower and upper is so steep. And the Knicks, maybe it's because the seats aren't so much better. Like our seats, we were in the last row of the lower bowl. So technically like the worst lower bowl seats. But even you could see some of the seats for the first row of the upper bowl, and they're like not that much farther away.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a better situation. But I'm glad you got to see Steph. Seeing Steph is a very cool thing. I was privileged to live in Oakland the year during that first Warriors title run. So I went to like 6 games because his tickets were like $35.
Yeah.
Because the world had not caught up yet. And I got to see him quite a bit. Did he do any of the cool things? Like you got to see him warm up, which is awesome. Did he do any of the things where he like turns around before the ball goes in the hoop? Because that's always a fun step.
He did not do that, but he did do the thing where he like sprints to underneath one of the baskets before the game, which Clay did as well. Also, Clay seems like broken, and it makes me really sad, but we'll talk about that.
Yeah, he had a post-game interview afterwards because he didn't close out the game where he was very honest, and he said, I'm going to get either honest with you or vulnerable with you to the reporter who asked. But basically, he was saying it's tough to go from being one of the best players to not being on the court to win out a close game.
Yeah.
But it seems like he's starting to accept it. He wasn't necessarily doing as much at the beginning of the year. Steve Kerr's talked about that. I would hope that by the end of the season, Clay comes to peace with it. He seems like he's getting there, and that's really nice to see, especially because he is someone who's just so open and honest and transparent. But I still think Clay can have a great end of his career if you make that kind of transition. If he recognizes, like, even if my athleticism is gone, I'm still going to be able to shoot threes until I retire. Let me focus on being a little more late career Ray Allen-y, a little more like catch and shoot 3-pointer as opposed to dribble around, pull up 3-pointer. And I just hope that for Clay, because he's such a nice guy, I would love for him to have just a long, good, accepting end to his career where he's mentoring young guys. I don't want him to get discouraged. I want him to embrace the new era of his career. And it seems like he's getting it.
Yeah. But to answer your question, I would say the most signature Steph thing was that he hit this kind of wild and one. I think it was like a layup that he banked in. And then when he got knocked to the ground, he did this kind of like shimmy, like the shoulder shimmy that he'll do sometimes. So there was no like shooting from half court and then turning around before the ball goes in. But it was funny. I was with my buddy Gavin, and there was one like real swaggy thing that he did. And as he was running down the court, I was like, you just know he's chewing on his mouth guard right now. You can just feel it.
Well, let's go to the Teal Memorial locker room, stocked with mouth guards to chew on.
Nice.
And you know who else probably has great mouth guards?
I would think our patrons, and most specifically our producer-level patrons.
Of course, our producer-level patrons. Thank you so much. Polly Burge, Kendra Hadley, Salvatore Testa, Siobhan Ellsbury, Don't Go Chasing Taco Falls, Bang, Bang, Roast Beef Debris, How About Them World Champion Denver Steam Nuggets, Anna Reed, Adam got to watch Steph Curry in person for 3.
I did, and bang.
Hi, Trish, Nicole Shepard, Chase Underulo, Mr. Bubbles Plays Ball, Naked Rachel, Josh Isn't Rich, Sidney Crosby is a Vampire, Chelsea's Cousin, Ginger Spurs Boy, and Balls to the Walls. And you know who doesn't have mouth guards, but that's okay?
Well, I guess our sponsor. That's not really what they do, per se.
No, but they do still help you put things in your mouth. But these things are cocktails. And with Shaker and Spoon...
I'm really glad that Tails was there, because that was going to be a problem real quick.
Yeah, to each their own.
Exactly.
But or Shaker and Spoon, you can get all of the fixins and mixins to make a bunch of different cocktails, all using the same liquor. You just provide the liquor, they provide everything else, and you can make 4 servings of 3 different cocktails. If you go to shakerandspoon.com/horse, you can get $20 off your first box, which is about half off. And I've used Shaker and Spoon multiple times in the past. It's really cool. The boxes they come in are really nice. They have all these cool little ingredients, whether that be fresh items like whole nutmeg or citrus fruits or particular syrups and stuff. They have a whole bunch of cool things that you can use to make the drinks. Candied ginger, fun stuff like that you can't just like get in the grocery store easily. And then you can make a bunch of cool cocktails. So head on over to shakerandspoon.com/horse. You'll get $20 off, and you can make some cool drinks that you can then put in your mouth.
Woohoo!
Now, unless you're listening on Patreon, where you get ad-free episodes, now we're going to take a bit of a break here for some other ads. Some of them are going to be read by us, and others of them won't be. But once those ads are complete, we'll get back to this episode of Horse. And we are back. Adam, what is going on in the wild world of Mama Walla?
Ooh, that sounds like a fun and specific theme park. I do have some fun shows coming up, a few things that have been added since last time. This is what I have coming up on the road. As always, I have New York things, nothing headlining, but I will give a plug for a very fun show called One Liner Madness. It is a fundraiser show, but it's a like March Madness style competition where there are 64 comedians. This is at the Bell House in Brooklyn, and we just compete with one-liners. It's like a bracket starting with 64 all the way down to a Final Four and a champion. A few years ago I did it, and I got to the Final Four. I was very proud of myself. But if you want to check that out, that is on March 13th in Brooklyn. But as far as road stuff, I'm going to be headlining 2 shows at Dallas Comedy Club in Dallas, Texas on Friday, March 29th. Then from April 10th to the 13th, I've got a little Northeast run. I'm going to be in Manchester, New Hampshire on Wednesday the 10th. I'm going to be in Portland, Maine on the 11th and 12th. 12th. But if you're in the main area, please go to Empire Comedy Club on Friday the 12th. Then I'm going to be headlining 2 shows in Boston on April 13th. I'm going to have some stuff in Miami coming up when I'm down there for a corporate event in May, so keep an eye out for that. I'll be headlining in Houston on May 31st. I'm looking to set up Austin and San Antonio shows as well, TBD. And then I am in Denver in July on the 19th and 20th. Whew, that's what I got. What do you have?
Busy boy. I think I have all the same stuff that I mentioned. Unfortunately, this episode is going to come out after the Florida shows, but we were able to add a streaming component to one, so maybe people are able to watch that. But upcoming, by the time people listen to this, will be the Denver shows where we have seats available for the early show. The late show is sold out. And then Phoenix, Arizona in February as well. That one's on the 20th. The Denver one is on the 18th. And then 2 shows in North Carolina in March, Raleigh March 9th and Charlotte March 10th. I'm working on booking some other stuff in the future. Potential cities include Atlanta, Washington, D.C., Toronto, and also Philadelphia and New York. So hopefully that stuff will be coming, but probably in the fall because my summer is busy. I will be at LeakyCon in July, which is in Portland, Oregon, 4th of July weekend. So I'll probably do a show in Seattle and a show in Portland either before or after that convention. But also, if you want to come to the convention and see me do Harry Potter and Percy Jackson stuff, come on through. It'll be fun. You can get tickets at leakycon.com.
Cool.
But with that complete, we can progress onward. Do we have an NB Q&A this episode?
We do have an NB Q&A. This question comes to us from Shane. The subject line says, what NBA teams are fun to watch? The message says, hey guys, I heard on the last episode someone asked the question about the most fun teams to watch in the league, which is a question I've had as well. To help me find fun teams, I made a spreadsheet with a few subjective rating scales for various categories to filter and sort to find what teams I like right now. I think it's fun and you can check it out. And Shane sent along a link, which I thought was very enjoyable. But Mike, the way I'm going to frame this for you is kind of a 2-part question. What makes a team fun to watch? And as we approach the NBA trade deadline and also WNBA free agency, who are some teams to watch on both sides that are going to be getting more fun in the near future?
Yes, I think what makes a team fun to watch is first and foremost, probably like the play style, I think plays a big role because especially if you're new to the sport and you don't exactly know what's going on, you might not be like, oh, this team has this guy on it or this team has this player, but it's more of just the way they play basketball. Because even there's some teams that have great stars like the Miami Heat, they don't play pretty basketball. It can just be a slog to watch. Even like when the Rockets were really good with James Harden, like it was not a brand of basketball that I enjoyed watching. Right. I didn't like watching a guy dribble for 15 seconds and then either take a step back 3 or do a pick and roll and try to get fouled. Like, great team, great run, just not super fun to watch. So I think play style is a big factor. I think the Warriors are always going to be fun because of Steph Curry, but also just in general, shooting a lot of threes and stuff. I think that the Thunder are a fun, like up and up team to watch right now. Got a lot of young guys that can do very fun athletic things. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is very fun to watch. Even though the team is not very good, the Lakers are still just an interesting team to watch because LeBron is going to go down as 1 or 2 for greatest player of all time ranking. So just to like watch that from like a historian perspective, I think is interesting. And then who's fun just from a change of pace? The New York Knickerbockers are genuinely fun to watch.
There you go. They are. I'll give you that. Yeah.
There's this great tweet that has been going around every time the Knicks win that has just been so fun. It is from someone whose Twitter handle is @TheLesterLee. And the tweet is, everyone in the NBA is scoring like 150 points every night. Then they come to Madison Square Garden and the Knicks beat them with metal bats for 2 hours.
Yeah.
It's so accurate. The game we went to was only like 105 to 109 or something like that. So if you wanted very big change of pace, the Knicks play really, really hard defense. And I, as you can attest at the game, like we played really good defense and it's really fun to watch. Like I just kept saying like great defense, great play, like well guarded.
Yeah.
They just play a very different brand of basketball. On the flip side, the Pacers, who we did play against, they are like the most high pace, high octane offense. So if you really want to just get the alpha
they are Pacers.
Of the league right now, yeah, they're living up to their name. You could watch the Pacers and then you could watch the New York Knickerbockers to be like, ultimate offense and ultimate defense. As far as in the WNBA, though, and we'll get into this now with free agency, but I think just the way the WNBA is shaken out right now is you kind of have super teams, and it is fun to see all of the super teams. So just objectively watching the Liberty, the Aces, and now, thanks to free agency, my beloved Seattle Storm, I think are all going to be very interesting watches just because the rosters are really, really incredible. The Liberty especially have a very interesting roster because of Sabrina Ionescu with her 3-point shooting ability is really solid. And then Brianna Stewart, who's a really good post player. They just are some of the best in the whole league at their particular positions, and they play very different positions. So the Liberty really can kind of check your boxes. And the Aces have that going on too with Kelsey Plum and Chelsea Gray from the guard perspective, and then Asia Wilson down low. You can really kind of see every type of player. So for the WNBA, I think those three teams are kind of your easy selections for if they're playing, you should watch them.
Yeah. And I'm just like a big vibes guy. Like if the vibes are good, I enjoy watching it. Even if the team is struggling or if they're in like a rebuilding mode, if people seem to be enjoying themselves, it's like any other form of entertainment, right? Like no one wants to go to a concert or a comedy show if the person on stage doesn't seem to be enjoying what they're doing. And I think it is similar for sports.
I think that's another credit to watching the Knicks because the team seems to really like each other. They have 4 guys all who played college ball together. Josh Hart, Jalen Brunson, Ryan Arcidiacono, and Dante DiVincenzo. And they all kind of like give each other crap. There was a stat going around where Ryan Arcidiacono, who's like our bench guy, but he's more of like a player coach than anything. People like having him in the locker room and on the court. He like calls out defensive schemes and stuff. He usually just plays the very last couple minutes of the game when it's over. And he's played in 20 games consecutively without scoring a point. And that's an NBA record. And coming off of after Jalen Brunson made the All-Star team, he made this really heartfelt, sincere post of like, it's such an honor to watch this guy play. I'm so glad he finally got named to the All-Star team, blah, blah, blah. Then Jalen Brunson shared that stat to his Instagram story. And then Josh Hart did with the caption, making history, and tagged Ryan Arcidiacono in it. So good. So funny. So
I love how much they all mess with each other all the time.
Yeah, like they all seem to really like each other, which is nice. And then just the city loves the team. So you can just hear the whole crowd, whether you're there in person or watching a broadcast of it, super, super into it, which is fun. Yeah. Similar, the Denver Nuggets. They are very good. Nikola Jokic is just a wild, interesting person to watch play basketball. He's actively confusing because he's so big, but still weirdly nimble and so adept at passing. Like he just looks like it shouldn't work, and it does. And then the city of Denver absolutely loves that team as well. So I think the Nuggets are really, really high, and they're also an incredible basketball team. Like they are just a perfectly crafted team. Like everything about them is perfect. Their roster is exactly what you need. I would also highly, highly, highly recommend watching the Denver Nuggets play basketball.
There you go.
With that complete now, we can get into full court press. Get it? Like the news?
I do.
So we mentioned this. WNBA free agency is going on. We're recording this on February 6th, so it is still ongoing. But we want to at least talk about some of the major things that happened here. And then also, you're going to hear later in this full court press, we will switch to a recording in the future where I will be on the road. So who knows what my audio situation will be, but the NBA trade deadline will be this coming Thursday, or if you're listening to this at, when it actually came out last Thursday. So we want to do a recording after the trade deadline to talk about that. But let's get the WNBA stuff in for sure. The big thing that went down is that my beloved Seattle Storm, after having 1 year of not being good at basketball, said no, and made 2 huge signings, one of which in the form of Skylar Diggins-Smith and another in the form of Nneka Ogwumike. Nneka previously was a longtime member of the Sparks, but the Sparks are entering a rebuild, so they did the kind of thing where, they kind of agreed, let's both go our separate ways. So the Storm ended up trading. They had the number 4 pick in this coming draft. They traded away that pick and Kia Nurse to kind of clear out her cap space so they could sign these 2 players. And then they got a 2026 pick back from the Sparks, which might not be too bad, seeing that they're entering a rebuild now. Like they might not be great, so it might work out okay. But the number 4 pick, it's a really good pick. And this should be a good draft, depending on who enters the draft. But we made this move, and then we were able to sign Skylar Diggins-Smith and Nneka Ogwumike, who are incredible. Nneka Ogwumike is like an 8-time All-Star. She won the MVP before. Skylar Diggins-Smith, similar caliber, just many, many All-Star appearances. And Skylar had some issues with teams in the past, but if I recall correctly, it was all about like her paid leave situation for pregnancy. Like she sat out all of last season for maternity leave. And I know there were some rumblings and frustrations in her past, but I don't feel like it was ever for basketball reasons. So I feel like everything should be pretty cool. Skylar, was teammates with Jewel Lloyd, who previously was the Storm's best player before adding these two people. So you get some chemistry. They both played together at Notre Dame. So that's fun. So the Storm just took a 1-year hiatus of being bad, and now we're going to be fun and interesting. Jade Melbourne, who I have such a soft spot for because she's Australian and her last name is Melbourne, has been tearing up the Australian Basketball League in this WNBA offseason, so maybe she'll come and be a major player. So Storm, very interesting. Other things that went down in free agency, Jordan Canada, who was on the Los Angeles Sparks, got signed and traded over to the Atlanta Dream.
Is Jordan from Canada? Like Jade Melbourne is from
I don't
Melbourne?
think she is. She used to be on, I think she's from LA. She used to be on the Storm, and I really liked Jordan Canada, and then we let her go 1 year, which made me very sad.
I mean, Seattle's pretty close to Canada.
You know, it's not that far to go up to Vancouver from Seattle. But Brianna Jones returned to the Connecticut Sun. Lindsay Allen is now a member of the Chicago Sky. Rebecca Allen is now a member of the Phoenix Mercury. Rachel Bannum is now a member of the Connecticut Sun. Kalani Brown stayed with the Dallas Wings. So you've got some other moves. Tina Charles is now with the Atlanta Dream. Natasha Cloud, a big one. She signed with the Phoenix Mercury. Sydney Colson returned to the Las Vegas Aces. So
I feel like Cloud should really be with the Sky.
I mean, look, I wanted her with the Storm, and
also,
she had made some fun comments the last time. Like, clearly, it seemed like she was getting ready to leave the Mystics last season because she had a game where she like did very well, and it was a close game, and she beat the Storm, and they interviewed her after, and she was like, "Seattle's always been a really great basketball city with a really historic organization." And I was like, "Let's get Natasha." But I think just after our two big signings, we didn't have room to make a third big signing since we also already have Jewel Lloyd on the team under a big contract. So I think that's fine. But yeah, I guess her on the Sky would have made more sense. But you've got some teams loading up. So it feels like the Aces ready to run it back, the Liberty ready to run it back. And you've got the Atlanta Dream seeing like they're trying to make a run at it too. So going to be some interesting basketball to watch. We'll have to see other signings, how things shake out. But right now, we've got some fun stuff going on, and the Storm have kind of re-entered into the conversation. And it's an interesting trend we're seeing with the WNBA. It feels just kind of like free agency, big signings are the way to build, which in the NBA, it seems much more like you really have to do well in the draft. Even if you have big free agent signings, if you don't hit on draft picks, just by the way the contract salary caps work, like you need good people that you aren't paying a lot of money on the team. Like that's a key to success. The Warriors, when they were able to make those runs, they had Harrison Barnes for not a lot of money. Like the reason they got Kevin Durant on the team was because of a weird contract thing that happened before the rules changed. So contracts, it makes it harder in the NBA to just completely build through free agency. Whereas in the WNBA, that's more possible. And we saw the Aces and the Liberty really made that happen in the past season and seasons prior. And now the Storm did it as well. And interestingly, Nneka Ogwumike did an interview with her sister, Chiney Ogwumike, who's a big player, but also a media personality on ESPN. And she does a great job as an analyst. They did an interview, and talking to Nneka, she basically said the Storm are a really storied franchise that put a lot of care into their players, and they are going to unveil, like just like the Aces did, a dedicated practice facility just for the team and no one else. They're not sharing it with the NBA team. They're not sharing it with like a college or something. It is just straight up, this is the Seattle Storm practice facility. And it shows that if you put effort into the team, you put money into the team where you're allowed to, unlike when the Liberty tried to, which I think they should still be allowed to, giving private jets to their team. I think that players in the WNBA are recognizing that. And that is cool to see that the teams that just care are getting the free agents, because the Storm, like, yeah, we had Jewel Lloyd on the team, but other than that, and we've got Ezzy McMagor, but like it's the Storm are one of the worst teams in the league last year. So it's not like these free agents are joining because it's like, oh, they're one person away or they're just two pieces away. Like they joined the Storm because the Storm care. And they know that if they commit for a long time contract, even if we're not good immediately, they're going to keep putting in that work to try and build out the team. So I like seeing the teams that give a damn being rewarded. And then hopefully when every team gives a damn, then we won't have a super team situation. We will just have more parity like we're seeing in the NBA right now, which is very fun to watch.
Indeed.
So now at this point, we will cut to our NBA trade deadline talk. Let's see how my audio is. I will either be in a hotel room or the green room of the venue. Whee!
Either way, it's going to be frantic and fun. And here it is.
Here it is. All right, Horseheads, as we have promised, we are here for the trade deadline extravaganza. Mike has not read anything. Adam knows the news. So let's full court press get it, like the news, and see what's happening. I know nothing. I know zero trades. Hit him with me. Let's just go.
How did you manage that? Did anyone text you about anything?
I had people text me, but thankfully it was vague enough where I don't know. All I know is I got one text message from a friend of mine who's a Knicks fan that said, yo, we're stacked. And that is all I have. So I know nothing. Yes. If you can, or can you go from like least interesting to most interesting? We are kind of borrowing this format from the baseball Barbie cast guys who do it that way. So I don't know if that's possible. But,
I can try. I will do my
try
best.
Your darndest, but like in a general sense, it would be fun if we ended this on the most like wah kind of thing. But yeah, let's
just so that I torture you for another 10 to 15 minutes. We're going to end with the Knicks trade.
End with the Knicks. Got it. Cool, of course.
So here are some more low key trades that happened. Portland has acquired Delano Bampton from the Celtics in exchange for a second round pick. I don't know who those people are.
Nope, never heard of him.
Boston has acquired Jaden Springer from the 76ers in exchange for a second round pick.
I also don't know who that is.
Don't know who that is. Sacramento has acquired Robin Lopez and our favorite player.
Cash considerations.
You got it. Cash considerations. Milwaukee in exchange has received not available.
That seems like they are clearing up a roster space for a different trade. So it feels like the Bucks made a big trade. That's fun.
Yeah. So TBD on that one. Let's go with some smaller ones. This is a three-way trade, but still not super interesting. Phoenix acquires Royce O'Neal and David Roddy. Memphis does a pick swap, and then Brooklyn gets 3 second-round picks.
Okay. Memphis gets Royce. Yeah. Interesting.
No. Phoenix gets Royce and David Roddy.
Oh, Phoenix. Yeah. Phoenix gets Royce and Roddy. That makes more sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I see it.
All right. So Toronto gets Kelly Olynyk and
whoa.
Yeah, and
why?
I'm gonna butcher this name. Is it Ochai Agbaji?
Oh yeah, Ochai Agbaji. But why did the Raptors want Kelly Olynyk? This is like when they traded for Jakob Poeltl.
I don't know. And Utah in exchange for that gets Kira Lewis, Otto Porter, and a first round pick this year.
Okay, Kira Lewis is kind of like a. I see that. Like they kind of get like a roll the dice kind of person.
Right.
That's so weird. What are they doing?
I don't know.
I'd have to look at Kelly Olynyk's contract to see if there's something where like he has multiple years and they're going to like try to flip him in the offseason or something. But that is a strange move.
Yeah, it's a weird one. The Timberwolves acquired Monte Morris in exchange for, they traded to the Pistons, Shake Milton, Troy Brown Jr., and a 2030 second round pick, which seems like too far in the future to be able to trade.
That's a funny trade to go. We have to trade Shake Milton for Monte Morris, which is like, we got this one backup point guard, but he's not good. Let's trade him for a different backup point guard and some other stuff. That's interesting. It makes sense, but like, that's just a funny trade.
It's got to be tough to go from a team as good as the Timberwolves to the Pistons, though.
Yeah, that's not great. That's not what you want.
You might have heard about this one because I think this happened last night. Boston acquired Xavier Tillman from the Grizzlies in exchange for Lamar Stevens, a 2027 second-round pick via the Hawks, and a 2030 second-round pick via the Mavericks. Other unsexy ones, I think this might have also been yesterday. Detroit acquired Simone Fontecchio. And the Jazz
Simon Fontecchio
acquired. The Jazz got, I believe, former Nick Kevin Knox. And the draft rights to Gabriel Procida. Don't know who that is. And a 2024 second round pick via the Wizards.
Okay, that makes more sense. I was going to say, why would they give him for nothing? But I guess it's just for the pick.
So now we're getting into, to my knowledge, there haven't been any, like, I would say Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving level blockbusters, but there have been some pretty spicy ones. So,
right, because for context for people, we're recording this literally right after the deadline.
Yeah.
We started at like 3:10 p.m. Eastern, and then I'm just here in my hotel room with Johnny, who's on tour with me, who you heard in the background go exactly when I said why would they trade for Kelly Olynyk.
Yeah. Yeah. So these are some more interesting ones. The 76ers have acquired Buddy Hield from the Pacers. In exchange, the Pacers get Marcus Morris, Furkan Korkmaz, and 3 second-round picks.
What, that is a hefty price, but I guess Buddy Hield is pretty solid. But it's all.
I feel like Hield is very up and down. We were talking about this at the Pacers Knicks game, where it's like you don't know what you're going to get from him day to day.
Yeah, that's 3 second-round picks seems like a lot, but especially because he's just like in the last year of his deal. But I guess they're hoping he will be old Buddy Hield, but I do like that the fur can has been uncorked. He has been requesting a trade every season for the past like 3 seasons, so at least he's not in Philly anymore.
Exactly. The Raptors and the Brooklyn Nets made a trade. The Raptors have acquired Spencer Dinwiddie, and the Nets in exchange are acquiring Dennis Schroeder and Thaddeus Young.
Why does that trade happen?
I really don't know.
Why do they want Dinwiddie? Why do they want Schroeder? I don't understand that trade. That is weird.
Yeah. That one was particularly weird. As always, we got some movement on Patty Bev. Patrick Beverley goes to the Milwaukee Bucks.
Pat Bev on the Bucks?
And in exchange, the 76ers get Cam Payne and a 2027 second-round pick.
Okay, again, that is like we had this backup point guard, but we need to upgrade him. Pat Bev on the Bucks. That is interesting.
And I've already seen people sharing footage of Pat Bev on podcasts talking shit about Giannis. So it's gonna be fun right off the bat.
That's very, very interesting. Wow.
Yep. Dougie McBuckets, aka Doug McDermott, gets traded from the Spurs to the Pacers. I think he was on the Pacers at some point, wasn't he, Doug McDermott? Or am I imagining that? Maybe not.
Sounds correct, but I can see that for the Pacers. We've traded away Buddy Hield. Let's get another guy who can shoot threes.
And then San Antonio gets a second-round pick in exchange for Doug. And then, all right, so what are we missing here? So the Hornets were involved in a couple very interesting trades. The first one was a trade with Dallas. Dallas acquires PJ Washington, and in exchange, Charlotte gets Grant Williams, who just signed there.
But he's been
Curry.
bad.
Yeah, he's been really bad. Seth Curry, and a first-round pick.
Wow, that's a good return for PJ Washington.
Yeah, but PJ Washington is also a good acquisition for the Mavericks.
Yeah, he's someone that kind of like fits the same role. It's so funny. So far, basically, all of these trades are like, we signed this guy in the offseason. He wasn't good. We're trading him for a similar player and adding like a pick or two in order to get them. This is it's all contenders trying to very slightly upgrade guys they already had. That's so interesting.
Yeah. But that is not the biggest move the Hornets made, because the Hornets also acquired Trey Mann and Davis Bertans from the Thunder in exchange for Gordon Hayward.
Gordon Hayward
to the Thunder.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, getting rid of Bertans and Trey Mann is like really not that big. So I feel like as far as moves the Thunder could have made, it's a pretty good one. I like the move in that sense that it's basically just like, let's get a veteran in, let's get some mentorship for these young guys, but not necessarily make a move that's so big that they are, trading away a young guy before they kind of see how good he is. Right. So I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I like that trade for the Thunder. I think that's the smart one.
Yeah, and I mean, the Thunder have been really, really good already. This adds like a veteran presence to their lineup, and I think it's going to be a pretty good fit there. But I believe that is actually all that there is, except for the Knicks trade. And I'm going to check Woj and Shams' Twitter to see if anything has, like, sometimes they'll report it like 15 minutes later as things are getting finalized. But the Knicks have acquired the Knicks and the Bulls made a trade.
The Knicks and the Bulls made a trade?
The Knicks have acquired Javon Carter in exchange for Jalen Brunson. I'm fucking with you. The Bulls again made no trades.
The Bulls did nothing.
They did nothing. No. So they At one point, it was reported that the Bulls had made Alex Caruso, quote, untouchable.
Oh my God. Bulls, come on.
And they refused to trade Andre Drummond as well.
What? Wait, really? Like teams were interested in it, or?
It seems that way, yeah.
Oh, what? Oh, I'm so sorry, man. What are they doing?
It's like borderline malpractice at this point.
It's bizarre. It's really weird.
Yeah. I don't understand it. My favorite meme somebody tweeted was Arturas Carniceovas, that's the Bulls general manager, patting himself on the back after the Bulls win 37 games and lose in the play-in, and it's just that photo of George W. Bush in front of the mission accomplished.
Yeah. Yep, that sounds
but all right,
exactly
the real trade was between the Detroit Pistons and the New York Knicks. Now, let me talk about what the Knicks gave up first. Some of these might hurt, so I'm sorry. The Knicks gave up Quentin Grimes.
No, Quentin Grimes.
Evan Fournier. I feel like you won't care about that.
That's fine.
Malachi Flynn, who they just acquired from the Raptors in the Anunoby
Also
trade.
fine.
This one's going to hurt. Archie Diacono.
Oh, Ryan Arcidiacono.
Breaking up the Nova boys.
That's also fine.
2 second-round picks.
Fine.
In exchange for former/current Nick Alec Burks.
Oh, the return of Alec Burks. Okay.
Bojan Bogdanovic.
Okay, I was going to say, if you said any name besides Bojan Bogdanovic once you said the Pistons, I would have been flabbergasted. So, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not
as spicy as you hoped?
No, I do like it, though. I guess Bruce Brown wasn't traded to anyone.
No.
The Raptors didn't trade him.
It says, Woj reported like 20 minutes ago, the Toronto Raptors are keeping Bruce Brown Jr.
Okay. Then because I know the Knicks were trying to get him. So especially based on some of the moves that the Raptors made, maybe they're weirdly like not trading. Yeah, I like it. I mean, we needed some more depth in that area. Bojan can play the 4, which is good. Trading away Grimes really stinks. That makes me sad, especially because like I don't really feel like Bojan or Alec are like long-term pieces necessarily. Like
but you guys are really good, and I think if you're trying to go for it this year, which maybe you are.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what their
kind of
contract situations are, Bogdanovic.
I think this is the last year for each of their deals. So the fact that we had to give up Grimes stinks, especially because of the connection I have with him. But, I like the players make sense for what we need. And Burks is such a Tibbs guy that I get it. I am intrigued to see Alec Burks back in a situation because, like, even when he was on our team and especially when he was on the Pistons, he was like, you're asking too much of Alec Burks, but he's still like good. If we have Alec Burks in a position where all he needs to do is shoot 3 corners and play some defense, like he might actually be very interesting. And I think Bojan will fit quite well with like our, very like plug and play amorphous groups kind of thing. So
what was the initial trade that sent Burks away, or was it a free agency?
We kind of like, it was like a salary dumpy kind of thing where we got rid of him. I think it was like him and a pick just to kind of like dump him to the Pistons. We did a similar thing with that and Nerlens Noel. Yeah. Okay. That's fine. Now I am seeing, because now that's all the stuff, right? Can I like try to just poke around Reddit and see if there's anything else?
The other big like non-moves is that
the Lakers didn't do anything, I guess.
Lakers didn't do anything. The Hawks kept DeJounte Murray, so there's no trade there. I believe the Pistons released Killian Hayes, which is, I mean, he's been really
I saw
rough,
that.
So
that's wild.
Yeah, but it certainly it does suck for him.
Not
like,
to even get like a second round pick for him is sad.
Yeah. But yeah, feel free to poke around that. That's everything that I'm seeing. I'm looking at Woj's feed. I'm looking at what else? Oh, I think I missed this somehow. The 76ers are trading Daniel House and a 2024 second round pick via the Knicks to the Pistons. But then I think
it says for question mark.
Yeah.
At least on Reddit. I'm on the Reddit like big tracker. There's one not finalized about Daniel Gafford going to the Mavericks in exchange for Richaun Holmes in draft compensation. That has not been finalized.
Gafford is a solid player, I would say.
He's fine. And then Daniel House for question mark. And then Oh, there was that earlier thing with Steven Adams and the Victor Oladipo trade. Oh, this is new. Oh no, I just like completely missed this one. Apparently it happened on January 14th. The Pistons got Danilo Gallinari and Mike Muscala in exchange for Marvin Bagley III, Isaiah Livers, and some second round picks. I completely missed that one.
I saw that just because I picked up Bagley at that time and he had like a nice little run there.
Mm-hmm. Wild. Wow. Okay. Well, there we go.
The Chicago Bulls have not made an in-season trade in 1,050 days. They have made one trade in 893 days. And I mean, everyone on Bulls Twitter is just like, what are we doing? What are we doing?
Yeah, that's sad. I'm sorry, man. Well, an interesting trade deadline. It's interesting that, like, I guess the Knicks, that's probably like the marquee trade is that Bojan trade. That's like the biggest one.
Yeah, it was kind of anticlimactic. The only thing that I'll mention with the Bulls is that I particularly enjoyed this quote and thought it was funny. People were asking DeRozan about his like unrestricted free agency status, and he said, quote, "It's kind of like with your spouse. It's like, what do we need to work on this on this, baby? All right, let's figure this thing out. You want me, I want you. The love is there." So I guess he likes being on the Bulls, but okay, they gotta.
All right. Well, that has been Free Agency Roundup. I can now take my phone off of silent do not disturb and respond to text messages that I've received, and we'll go about it. But yeah, thank you for facilitating this, Adam. I think this is a fun happenstance, and we'll see if we can do this in the future. But just by me having flights today, this aligned perfectly, and I'm glad we got to do it.
It would be fun if in the future we just both agree to like not look at our phones for the beginning part of the day, and then we hop on right at 3:00 and do this. But yeah, it would have been more fun if I was like, the Knicks got LeBron, but you know.
No, it's fine. You know, it's an interesting trade. And I mean, especially given the Joel Embiid injury news, which is very sad, like our chances in the East have improved, especially also with the Bucks signing Doc Rivers, who's a bad coach.
Right.
Like we weirdly are like, we could be a real contender. So I think it's a fine move. Let's roll those dice, baby.
I mean, the Knicks are legitimate enough that I think anything short of like an Eastern Conference Finals appearance will be disappointing at this stage.
Right. I think at this point we really want a top 4 finish, and then to like gotta get to the second round. And if it's not a close series, it would be disappointing. Like if we lose in 7 to like the Bucks or the Sixers or something, like I don't think we would be sad. But if it's like the way the Heat series went, where it was like 6 games, but like not actually too close of a series.
Yeah, and also losing to a play-in team, hurt, I think, last year too.
Yeah, it felt better since they went on to go to the finals. Right. But like, yeah, I think if we don't get to the ECF, that would be disappointing. But if the things line up where like if we play the Celtics in the second round or something, I don't think we're going to be mad about it. It's one of those like, if we don't get to the Eastern Conference Finals, the context of how we did in that second round, I think will really dictate it. But yeah interesting stuff. Interesting stuff. Okay, well, everyone listening, enjoy the rest of the episode as we travel back to Mike and Adam from the past.
Ooh.
And also, if you are a patron, you got to see a video version of my genuine reactions. So you can head on over to patreon.com/horsehoops, and all horse patrons can see the video version of the call that we did for this.
Wow, thanks, Adam and Mike from the future. How fun. I can't believe, let's just like try to take a big swing. I can't believe the Wizards traded Kyle Kuzma to the Dallas Mavericks for Grant Williams.
And I can't believe that the Lakers traded LeBron James back to the Cavaliers for Darius Garland.
That would be wild. LeBron wearing the stupid Knicks towel. It's so... It was funny because Kelly and I ended up watching that game on ESPN because it was on ESPN and tickets were way too much. And when the game was over, the Lakers won and I was very upset. And then LeBron did the thing where he did the post-game interview where he's wearing the Knicks towel very intentionally because he's trying to put pressure on the Lakers like he always does. Like, oh, I might force my way out to the Knicks in the offseason, or, you know, you might have to trade me to the Knicks. It's so silly. And I was so mad because he always does this whenever he beats the Knicks. He would always post some sort of photo and he would put like King of the Garden. It's like, you're not King of the Garden if you win one game here per year.
There's only one King of the Garden and his first name is Bernard. How about that?
And Kelly, after I said this, she was like, I'm glad you didn't spend $500 to see someone that you clearly hate. And I was like, but I have to see him.
It's true.
It's complex. It's complex. Anyway, here's your 3-on-3.
Yeah, let's get into it.
1, 2, 3. 3, 2, 1. 3-on-3.
So we recently found out that Sabrina Ionescu and Steph Curry are going to be facing off in a three-point shooting contest during NBA's All-Star Weekend on Saturday, February 17th.
Pretty cool date on the 17th, isn't it?
Ooh, that is. I believe that is the GOAT's birthday.
Yep, me. And it's
Michael
also
Schubert
Michael
and
Jordan's birthday.
Michael Jordan.
And also Paris Hilton.
There you go. I mean, three of the best in their fields, whatever field it is that she is in.
She was very good at having a rich father and making more money out of it. Like, you got to hand it to her. She
As far
was
as
already
Nepo
rich,
babies go, she's elite.
She did a good. There's many worse Nepo babies. At least she
That's
did
true.
some stuff.
That's true.
Like,
That's true.
She
Not
did
a great music career, but we'll let that slide.
but profitable probably.
That's true. Anyway, Sabrina Ionescu and Steph Curry are going to be facing off in a three-point contest, and save for the online imbeciles who are already preemptively complaining about whether Sabrina will use an NBA-sized ball, she won't, or shoot from the NBA three-point line. She also won't, because why would she?
She said she would, though. She said she would. She shouldn't. She shouldn't.
She shouldn't, but she could.
Not because she can't. I fully believe if the WNBA had the NBA three-point line and she was the same player she is, she would be totally fine. I think just from a muscle memory perspective, she should shoot from wherever she most commonly shoots from.
Right.
Because you'll see NBA players get messed up by this when they play in the Olympics or FIBA tournaments. Their line is closer, and the NBA guys still shoot from like a couple steps back, just because that's what you're used to. So I think she should just shoot from wherever she's the most comfortable, because no one's going to care. If guys are going to be crappy about it, they're already going to be crappy about it, even if she shoots from the NBA three-point line, because they'll be like, well, the ball is smaller. Like, shut up. Shut up.
But all that to say, people are very excited about this unique matchup. I certainly am. Ionescu won last year's WNBA three-point contest with a near-perfect final round, shooting a blistering 25 of 27 attempts. Steph Curry, undoubtedly the greatest three-point shooter to ever play in the NBA, has won the three-point contest twice in 2015 and 2021. So today, in honor of the fact that this will be the final episode before NBA's All-Star Weekend, I'm going to talk about the three best NBA and WNBA contest-winning final round performances, which I know is specific, but I had to choose some sort of metric, because otherwise, they're very notable first-round performances. There are certainly people who have won multiple times, but I wanted to be specific about when the pressure is on, who in history has had the best final rounds.
That's fun.
Yeah. So naturally, the competition for this list is going to be steeper on the men's side, simply by virtue of the fact that the NBA three-point contest has taken place every year since 1986, with the exception of the lockout-shortened 1998-1999 season. On the women's side, weirdly, and I didn't know this, there have only ever been 10 three-point contests, because they first took place between 2006 and 2010, and then they stopped doing it for some reason, even though there was still an All-Star game, and it didn't return until 2017. I don't know if you know more than I do about why that would have been the case. It's an easy enough thing to do. I don't know why you wouldn't do it.
I don't know. I know that era of WNBA is when the league had kind of dipped in popularity. So I wonder if it was just
maybe they just had the game and not the extra.
That's what I can
evening
think.
of stuff.
They just had the game, because I think now for WNBA All-Star it is multiple days.
Yeah,
so
I think that's true.
think that it was probably just in a time where they were like, we don't have the money to justify whatever we got to do to reserve an arena for 2 nights, or the return on investment was worth it. That's the only thing I can guess, but that is interesting.
Yeah, I'm not sure why they stopped doing it. That might be why. But either way, they are back with a vengeance. But in any case, we're going to start on the women's side of things and then move over to the men's. And I suppose I already spoiled the number one spot on the women's side, but sorry, not sorry. So for the purposes of this ranking, as I mentioned, I'm going to go based off of the overall percentage of points that people could have gotten in the final round, because that feels the most fair. And for anyone who has never watched a three-point contest, here's a brief explanation of the way that it works. There are racks of 5 balls apiece stationed evenly around the three-point arc. So there's one on each corner, one on the left and right top of the key, and then one right dead center at the top of the arch. There have been variations of this throughout the years, but at least on the men's side, the basic premise is that you have to shoot 25 three-pointers in 1 minute, which is already kind of a task in and of itself, just physically, given that this allows for approximately 2 seconds per shot when you factor in the time that it takes to move from station to station. At each respective station, there were historically 4 regular balls, and then there would be 1 red and white ABA themed money ball. So every normal ball was worth 1, and every money ball was worth 2. So what that meant was that a perfect score was 30, which would be making 20 of the regular shots at 1 point apiece, and the 5 money balls at 2 points apiece. Since 2014, though, in the NBA, a rack consisting of only money balls was added, and it could be placed on any of the 5 spots based on the player's choosing, and that brought the maximum possible score to 34 points. And then most recently, the last wrinkle added in 2020 was that 2 additional Mountain Dew shots, because of course everything has to be branded.
No. It is now the Starry.
Oh yes,
NBA
I'm sorry.
three-point
Starry. We must give them their due. You see what I did there?
Why is it always soda? It was Sprite, and then it was Mountain Dew, and now it's Starry, which is just Sierra Mist rebranded.
Exactly. Yes. In any case, some sort of soda shot, and it's placed on each side of the top of the key from like way out. It's basically like Steph and Dame range. So like maybe
it's
5
your
to 10
from the
feet.
logo kind of shot.
Exactly. Now, when they did that, this increased the maximum possible score to 40 because each of those shots were worth 3 points. They also increased the time limit from 60 seconds to 70 seconds to account for the extra 2 shots, which, as I mentioned, are both like, I would say, 5 to 10 feet maybe behind the 3-point line?
Yeah, pretty far. I also think a factor, I'm glad you brought up like that it is just like physically demanding. It's also weird because you don't normally shoot basketballs by picking them up from a rack to the side of you.
Right.
Like you either are dribbling or catching it from a pass.
Yeah.
So it's just an unnatural motion. And you can see a prime example of that being at last year's NBA All-Star game.
Mm-hmm.
Julius Randle was a 3-point contest participant, but only because someone else was going to be it and then got injured on like the last day before leaving for the All-Star break, like the last game before the All-Star break. Whoever was going to be in it got hurt and didn't end up making the trip. So then the NBA was only going to pick from people who were already doing something at All-Star weekend. And Julius Randle was shooting well enough from 3 that year that he was like, sure, I'll do it. But he had not practiced doing from the racks at all. So he was terrible.
Yeah.
And I think like people underestimate, like when you're in the NBA 3-point contest, like you practice this because it's just unnatural and strange.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I would absolutely not do it unless I thought I could practice because it is a totally different thing than like catching the ball from a pass or shooting it off the dribble. I think we've discussed this before, but in a world where you got to do this, and we're talking NBA length 3-pointers, so you got the, whatever it is, 27 shots. How many do you think you're making? So you only get 70 seconds. I would give myself like maybe 4 or 5 that go in.
I would not go more than 5 for me. I would say probably, I would say like 3. Like if you have the actual pressure of the, like if I'm in the real thing where people are watching, maybe 3.
Yeah.
If I'm in a completely empty gym with no distractions, maybe 4 or 5.
Yeah.
But especially under the time limit too. Like I don't think I'm hitting anything in those last 10 shots.
Oh no, I would maybe get 15 of them off because also like we're not NBA players, so you'd have to like really load up to even get it that far.
Oh, that's true. I don't think I would even finish, and then I'd be tired towards the end. So yeah, I'm gonna say 3.
I will say though, as many of you know, my lifetime shooting percentage from behind the arc on NBA courts is 50%, which is, I hate to make this claim, but it is the best of all time. If we're not,
and I've never missed one ever. I've never missed a shot on an NBA court.
That's true. I love it. That's like when schools like don't have a football team and they're like undefeated since whatever year.
Yeah.
Great. All right, so we're going to start on the women's side, and the third highest performance in a final round came in 2007, courtesy of Washington Mystics player Lori Kane. Do you know who Lori Kane is?
No, unfamiliar.
Yeah, so this was the second ever WNBA 3-point contest. She scored 25 out of 30 possible points, good for an 83.33% mark. I was actually able to find incredibly blurry footage of this contest, and the coolest part is that the All-Star Weekend was held in Washington, D.C. that year, so she has her home fans behind her. Now, her performance in the finals was so dominant that she actually clinched the win on the final money ball of the second to last rack. So she has 18 points. She needs 20 to win. She hits the final money ball, getting her to 20. The crowd erupts. And then she just gets to shoot the final 5 balls just for the hell of it. And she still hits 4 of them, even though she didn't need any of them. So the crowd goes
Maybe
wild.
the lack of stress just made
Oh,
her
yeah, probably just
like
get
it's
loose.
all the weights off the shoulders. You're just carefree, baby.
Yeah, for sure. So she gets her moment of glory. It was also very interesting to see her shooting style because I was not familiar with her, and her shooting motion is like very like right hand dominant. She like really loads up on her right shoulder, so she's shooting it more like just from her right side than from in front of her, which I think you do see a little bit more frequently in the women's game, I would say, just because, like, please don't come at me for this, but like in terms of like a strength thing, when you're learning how to shoot, especially at a younger age, sometimes you need a little bit more of like a push from your dominant arm when you're, I don't know if you would agree with that in terms of like why you see that more, like a push shot.
I think not even just the strength, but it's also just like for people in the NBA, and I didn't even do this until I was older, it's easier to just like shoot over your head.
Right.
And especially when you're younger, like sometimes you'll shoot more from the side just so that the basketball is not covering your face when you release it. So that's another factor as well. But also just like sometimes people just have different shooting styles. But yeah, it's definitely something you see from folks when they're younger is either shooting from lower or from off to the side. So it could have just been she got used to that form and stuck with it.
Right. But even Steph Curry, who is arguably the greatest shooter of all time, like he has a very unorthodox shooting style. It's just that he releases it so quickly that there's not time for anybody to block it, despite the fact that he's shooting it from like a lower release point.
0.3 seconds is his release.
Absurd.
That's wild.
Yeah. I mean, he was kind of made for this contest in terms of how quickly he releases the ball, but
100%. Yeah. Quick math. He can shoot about 6 shots in the time.
Yeah, that is wild. All right. At number 2 on our list, we have Chicago Sky standout Allie Quigley, who in 2018 scored 29 of a possible 34 points, good for an 85.3% mark. Now, to take a step back, basketball pun, Quigley is by far the most decorated person, male or female, in the history of the three-point contest. She has won 4 of the 10 contests that have ever taken place in the WNBA, including a remarkable run of 4 victories in 5 years from 2017 to 2022. If not for Shakina Strickland of the Connecticut Sun interrupting that streak in 2019, Quigley would have won 5 consecutive contests. For a frame of reference, no NBA player has won more than 3 times, a feat accomplished only by the legendary Larry Bird and Chicago Bulls sharpshooter Craig Hodges. But in any case, we'll put a link to Quigley's 2018 performance in which she got 21 points in the first round, 18 in the second, and then a blistering 29 points in the final round, including hitting her full rack of money balls on the top right corner of the key. Pretty sick.
That's incredible. Yeah, I definitely remember that run of like, oh yeah, she won the 3. It was very much like ho-hum. She won the 3-point contest again. Like, you know, the sky is blue, more at 11. Like,
exactly.
It's just such like a normal, common thing where when she didn't win, it was like, what?
Exactly.
So, yeah. She's elite. She's elite.
Yeah, she is. Finally, at number 1, and we all knew it was coming, but last year, the New York Liberties' Sabrina Ionescu went absolutely berserk, tallying 37 of a possible 40 points in what was one of the all-time great three-point contest performances. We shared the video last year when it was going viral and making the rounds, but she makes it look so easy. Not only does she hit her full money ball rack, but she also drills both of the, I don't know if they're Mountain Dew shots or Starry shots or whatever they were, but both of the long-distance shots, which are well beyond NBA range, let alone WNBA range, just as a reminder to the haters. But the coolest part about the whole thing was that all of the other WNBA stars who are there watching on the sidelines are like equally as flabbergasted as the crowd. Like everybody's just going absolutely bonkers. It is phenomenal to watch, and it makes me very excited, not only for the Sabrina-Steph matchup coming up, but also for future Sabrina matchups with Caitlin Clark, which are inevitably on the horizons in the years to come. So we're going to move over to the men's side now. And on the men's side, we start in 3rd place with a 2-time three-point contest winner and one of the best free throw shooters of all time, Mark Price. At 5'11", 170 pounds, Price was the quintessential dude you wouldn't believe if you met him at a bar and he told you he was in the NBA sort of archetype. but this dude could absolutely ball. Price finished his career with a genuinely absurd 90.4% lifetime free throw shooting percentage. And he was also the second player in league history after Larry Bird to join the 50-40-90 club, meaning that he shot over 50% from the field, over 40% from behind the arc, and over 90% from the foul line in a full NBA season. So after winning the contest for the first time in 1993, Price did not let the pressure get to him in 1994, scoring 24 of a possible 30 points, good for an 80% mark. In the final winning round, Price hit 20 of his first 22 shots, and yes, there is video of this. It is worth watching not only for the shooting, but also for the old school graphics. And Doug Collins commentating and saying, and I quote, "the angelic face of Mark Price with the eyes of an assassin," end quote. Pretty great.
That was not Bill Walton? Oh,
it was not. God. You would think, if I gave you that quote and made you guess who said it, you definitely would have guessed Bill Walton.
I would have bet $1,000 that it was Bill Walton.
Pretty awesome. Now, at the time, the record for points in a round was 25, and Price actually got to 24 with 3 balls remaining, but sadly he missed the final 3 shots. Nevertheless, his strong final round was enough to secure him his second consecutive contest victory. At number 2, we have Devin Booker's 2018 performance, in which he converted 28 of a possible 34 points, good for an 82.35% mark. And Reggie Miller comments on it in the middle of the contest, but his form is so effortless and efficient. Like, he really is made for that kind of contest. He makes it look very simple. And even after the incredible round, he remains like his classic kind of cool, calm, and collected vibe, as Booker usually seems to be. Like, he'll get fired up sometimes, but he's like a pretty smooth operator. But yeah, this was the All-Star weekend that was in Los Angeles, and Booker certainly shined bright in front of the stars.
Yeah, no, it was good for him. I think it was nice. It was at a time when Devin Booker wasn't like truly at like elite Devin Booker notoriety status yet. So it was cool for more people to take note of Devin Booker, because he just really began his career by toiling away on some truly horrendous Phoenix Suns teams. So to see him now be more in the spotlight is cool, and him winning that 3-point contest was also cool.
For sure. But it's time to get to the number 1 final round performance in NBA history, and I think it's going to surprise some people. Do you know who it is? And I'm implying that it's not someone that you would think that it would be. So it's not Steph.
Oh, is it like... was it Nocioni?
No, but good guess. Man, that's a name I haven't thought about in a long time. Former Chicago Bull legend Andres Nocioni.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I wonder, is it a similar guy like that, where like a dude who's
like
just
sharpshooting white guy? You probably know him best with the Heat. Also played for the Pelicans and bopped around a lot.
It's gonna bug me.
JK
not
or
Ryan
the
Anderson. JK. It's not Ryan Anderson, but he's got that same vibe. Gosh, who is it?
Jason Capono.
Yes, God, that's who I freaking meant when I said Andres Nocioni. God,
you were thinking of Jason Capono.
I was literally thinking of Jason Capono. Oh man,
yeah, man, he could ball. He was a really good player, and kind of in the vein of like I don't know if JJ Redick is the right comparison, but maybe more like a Kyle Korver, just like a guy who's always going to have a job because he shoots threes so well that his career was pretty long. But so Jason Capono was a 2-time winner, and much like Mark Price, he had the opportunity to defend his title after winning the contest for the first time in 2007 with the Miami Heat. The following season, as a member of the New Orleans Pelicans, Capono did not disappoint, converting 25 of the possible 30 points in the final round, good for an 83.33% average, the single best final round in NBA history. I weirdly had trouble finding footage of the 2008 contest, but I will link to the footage from the 2007 one. At one point during his career, Capono was actually statistically the best 3-point shooter in NBA history. As of this recording, he is currently 6th all-time with a 43.36% mark, trailing only, in a backwards to forwards order, 5th, Joe Harris, 4th, Drazen Petrovic, may he rest in peace, 3rd, Luke Kennard, 2nd, Hubie Davis, and 1st, Steve Kerr, who is the all-time leader at 45.4% 3-point percentage lifetime. Surprisingly, Steph is not even in the top 10 in terms of percentage. He's number 12 with a 42.64%.
He just shoots way too many.
Exactly.
He shoots so many, and he's guarded so intensely.
Yeah. And this is kind of cool. his younger brother Seth is actually 7th all-time ahead of Steph. He's one spot behind Capona with a lifetime 43.23% mark. But yeah, in any case, those were the best final rounds in WNBA and NBA history, and I can't wait to watch Sabrina and Steph go head-to-head next weekend.
That'll be really fun. Yeah, I just pulled up Capono's basketball reference page. He shot 51.4% from three in 2006, 2007.
That's outrageous.
It's absurd. Unsurprisingly, that led the league. He also led the league the next year where he shot 48.3%. But and
those were the 2 years that he won the contest, so it checks out.
Yep. In that year where he shot 51%, he shot 49% overall. So I just love the breakdown of like, I would much rather shoot a 3-point shot than anything else. Please.
Oh, yeah.
Like, just so good. Wow. What a guy. Yeah, man, that's who I meant. Dang it. Well, that was super fun. Let's now get into my That Actually Happened, which is a fun thing in that it's weird that it happened, but it's less fun in that it is about some dude being grumpy for no good reason.
Oh, no.
I wanted to do this for the That Actually Happened because we referenced it in our last episode in our interview with JB Ball, but I realized, oh my goodness, we've never covered this on the show. Today, I'm going to present how Colin Cowherd weirdly beefed with John Wall for years on end because John Wall did the Dougie once.
Oh, my goodness. What an objectionable thing to do.
I know. Are you familiar with this beef at all?
Only because you referenced it when we talked to JB for the last episode. And I do like vaguely remember there being some harumphing about John Wall having a good time, but I didn't know that it actually went to the extent of there being like a beef around him doing a dance one time.
It was super strange. So John Wall came into the league in the 2010-2011 season. He was a highly touted prospect from Kentucky. He was absolutely incredible there. There was the Do the John Wall Dance song that came out, I believe, during his last year at Kentucky. Yeah. And that was the dance where you kind of put your fist facing you and then fisting away.
Wall.
So there was a history of John Wall and dancing prior to him getting into the NBA. And he's very good at dancing, and it was fun and cool. And then when he was drafted by the Washington Wizards, I believe was he the number one pick or
I think he was,
pick?
Yeah. I feel like he was number one.
Let's see. John Wall was the number one overall pick by the Washington Wizards in the 2010 NBA draft. So when he played his first game for the Washington Wizards, we'll put a link to this on the episode page of horsehoops.com. But when they do the player announcement things, at that time, the Wizards were horrible because the way
as opposed to now when they are horrible.
Horrible. So the NBA, when they do player introductions, normally the best player on the team will be saved for the last name when they announce the starting five, because then the crowd gets the most hyped before the game begins. Or if you have two really good players on the team, the two people will be first and last. So the Knicks, for example, Jalen Brunson is always first and Julius Randle is always last. That's because Julius Randle was our best player for a while and he was last, and it's kind of weird to like bump him. So it's easier just to then put someone, even though Jalen Brunson is better, Randall's been the guy there for a while. It's like a weird snubbing thing. But the Wizards were already in the situation where John Wall, who had played 0 games in the NBA, was their best player, like significantly, no contest, not even close. So he was announced last. So there's already a bunch of hype. This is his first game. It's a home game. Like, let's go. And when they start to announce it, they do like a pretty long thing of like, and starting at guard from Kentucky, 6'3". So they do like a big long
His favorite food is spaghetti.
He called his mom last night and she was happy about it. But when they're doing that, they are playing the song that was very popular in the year 2010, Teach Me How to Dougie, which is a great song, and it's a perfect song, and everyone should know how to Dougie because it's not that hard, and you can watch YouTube videos about how to do it, or you can watch this video of John Wall, because you know who's probably the greatest person I've ever seen do the Dougie? John Wall. I've never seen a better Dougie. Like, when I was trying to perfect my Dougie craft in high school and college, I would watch this video of John Wall's player introduction, because I've never seen anyone do a better Dougie than John Wall. He just has so much
it's an elite
flow
Dougie.
And joy, and he's so smooth. But basically during the entire little introduction, he does the Dougie, absolutely nails it, then kind of high fives his teammates a little bit, then does the Do the John Wall dance a little bit, morphs that into the Dougie, and then they all put their hands in and do like a team on 3, 1, 2, 3 team thing. It is so cool. It is incredible. The whole arena was hyped. It was absolutely fantastic. Everyone loved it. Just kidding. One person didn't love it. Colin Cowherd hated it. Colin Cowherd, if you don't know who he is, I envy you. But he is very similar to Skip Bayless.
Yeah.
If you don't know who Skip Bayless is, I really envy you. But he's one of these guys who just like, he's just like always been famous.
I mean, it's like in the
like,
vein of what you would call a
lifetime.
shock jock.
Yeah, just like a radio DJ sports guy who like has no credentials. Like he didn't play
Just
in the
all
league.
hot
He didn't
takes
coach
all
the
the time.
league. Right. He didn't work for any team. He's just one of these guys who just talks about every sport and just does hot takes and does the thing that now all these guys do is they all have the same microphone where the compression is bad. So the audio sounds like they're like this all the time where they're right up on the mic and it's bad audio quality. Like none of these guys know how to work a microphone properly. But
don't they have engineers? I mean, how is this happening?
They do, but it's just like they're used to doing it on radio. Like it is microphones have improved, but these guys like techniques have not. I could talk about that for hours, but anyway, he's one of these guys that just like has all these hot takes and just like tries to say inflammatory things to drive traffic and all that kind of stuff. And he did that here against John Wall just for no good reason. Like there's this huge tirade that he has, and we'll put a link to it on the episode page because it's just weird and it goes on for a really long time.
Before the game started, he spent 34 seconds doing the Dougie. That tells me all I need to know about JWoww. JWoww's 37-second, yo dog, look at me, I'm the man, and his wild, out-of-control style. Everybody else is buying his stock, and it told me all I need to know.
So the rant that Cowherd went on was so long and strange that we've only just put in like a clip of it, and we just like I can't even find like a full transcript of it online, and it would take way too long to go through. It's just terrible. But some of the things he says, he compares it to robbing a bank because he says that the crime of it is not that he was like, he says like the problem with robbing a bank is not just that you robbed the bank, but it's that you planned it for weeks. So what he's trying to say is like the fact that he has clearly planned that I'm going to dance during my player
a premeditated Dougie.
Sure, as if it's a bad thing at all. It was so cool, objectively incredibly cool. But he's mad that he like planned it in advance for his first NBA game in where he's like the reason people are buying tickets. Like no one's watching the Wizards because they're good at this point. They're watching to see John Wall. So he did a cool thing. So he gets mad at him at that. Compares him to Allen Iverson, which is like super white guy getting mad at black player like trope. Like
yeah, that feels a little coded.
Anytime people want to get racial, but like try not, they always are like, oh, Allen Iverson. And the way it makes this clear is he says that John Wall is going to end up like Allen Iverson. He's saying like he's never going to be an accomplished player. Allen Iverson, who made the finals many times and won MVP. And then he also says like he'll never be coached by a great coach. Allen Iverson, who was coached by many great coaches over his career. So this makes no sense at all. So like super weird. Like, I think you just wanted to compare him to another black player that you didn't like, Colin Cowherd. Then he says that it's the doggy dance, not the Dougie dance, which is either him like getting it wrong on purpose to be crotchety or just him being like incredibly uncool. He also then multiple times, and he said this like for years and years because he never let this go. He said that John Wall did the dance for 34 seconds, and that is factually incorrect. If you look at the tape, he does it for 21 seconds. Then he takes about a 10-second break to high-five his teammates. Then he does another 4 seconds of it combined with doing the John Wall dance and then high-fiving his teammates. So the thing of his player introduction lasts for 34 seconds. He does not Dougie for 34 seconds. So this is just an obscuring of the truth, and it is unjust journalism, and I won't stand by it, Colin Cowherd.
Oh, well, I think that implies that what he does is journalism in the first place, which it isn't.
Yeah, gosh, he doesn't. He just yells things and makes comparisons that make no sense at all.
The problem with stuff like this is that it's always this angle of like, act like you've been there before. But it's like, he literally hasn't.
Yes.
It's his first NBA game and he's excited. Now, I would understand if the Warriors are down 25 points in the fourth quarter and the song comes on in the stadium and he's Dougieing on the sidelines as the team is getting their asses kicked. but it's before the game. The whole point of doing the player intros is to like keep the vibes good and keep it light and get everybody excited for the game. What better way to get people excited than doing the Dougie? I've seen the Dougie many times before. I think it probably was at your wedding. I would be disappointed if it hadn't been.
Oh, I requested that the DJ play it. It was one of my few demands of like, you must play this. So I went up to him. I was like, can you play TJ Dougie? He was like, oh yeah, sure, no problem. And then I did it. And anyone could have taken notes. I would have gladly taught anyone how to Dougie. You have to try to act like your elbow and your knee are attached by a string, and then they move in unison. That's the biggest piece of advice that I would give. But anyway, not only did he get the crowd super hyped, which he did. If you watch the video, like they are hype as hell when he's doing the Dougie. But also, he had a great game. He scored 29 points and he had 13 assists and 9 steals. 9.
I'm guessing 8 turnovers, but
well, you exactly got it correct.
Hilarious.
He did have exactly 8 turnovers, and that is what Colin Cowherd yelled at him at. But like, he almost had a triple-double with steals. Like, I don't care if you have 8 turnovers, but you have 9 steals. Like, you're a net positive, so it's fine. And also 13 assists and 8 turnovers. Like, that's not great, but it's not terrible. But weirdly,
I'm sure you can look up his plus minus for the game, and I bet it was a plus.
Yeah. He's had a great game. His first game, I don't know if it was his first overall game. It was at least his first game in Washington. But like still, that's absurd. But then, of course, Colin Cowherd is like, well, Rajon Rondo put up 17 assists and 4 steals and had no turnovers. But yeah, he was also on the Celtics in 2010.
Right.
Who had Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, and Kevin Garnett. Can you name...
Slightly deeper team.
Can you name anyone else on the 2010 Washington Wizards? Because I can't.
I'm going to say Karan
a single
Butler.
person. Ooh, that's a good guess. Here's the team. Oh, Gilbert Arenas was still on the team. That's fun.
Oh.
Gilbert Arenas, Hilton Armstrong.
That's
Mike
not a real
Bibby,
person.
Andre Blatch, Trevor Booker, Jordan Crawford, Maurice Evans, Alonzo Gee, Kirk Heinrich, Josh Howard, Lester Hudson, Yi-Jan Lin was on the Wizards.
Oh, wow.
Othis Jeffers, Rashard Lewis, Cartier Martin, JaVale McGee, and someone whose name is Hamidi Nadaye, who I've never heard of, as well as Mustafa Shakur and Kevin Serafin. So, yeah. Oh, Swaggy P, Nick Young. So
yeah, some of those people are not real. Those are AI generated names.
Half of those people are names from Guess Who, the board game. No, so that is not the same roster, but that was his whole thing. Then Cowherd goes on to say, point guard is like the quarterback. It's an IQ judgment position. The great ones are not about themselves. They are about others. Leadership is IQ, not skills. It's just so stupid. But then it turned into like a whole thing. And what's funny about this beef is that John Wall never responded until the last thing that I will cover in my recap of this beef. It's just like this just man being deranged for no good reason. So basically, as things would go on, just every now and then he would have a rant where he just like took the crap out of John Wall for no good reason. And he would always cite it as like, oh, once I saw him do the Dougie, I knew it was going to be terrible. So he has all this stuff.
That was very Nixon-esque right there, I have to say. That was very Richard. That was a weird Richard Nixon impression.
Once I saw the Dougie, I knew he would be a crook. Yeah, just absolutely ridiculous. So there was one time where Colin Cowherd attacked John Wall and said he wasn't as good as being a point guard because he didn't have a father figure in his life, which is super racially coded. But also, if that wasn't bad enough, it is true that John Wall's father wasn't around for a good portion of his life. But you want to know why? It's because his father died of cancer.
Oof.
Yeah, super tough look for Colin Cowherd. He had this quote where he said, let me tell you something. I'm a big believer when it comes to quarterbacks and point guards. Who's your dad? Who's your dad? Because I like confrontational players. I don't like passive aggressives. Strong families equal strong leaders. Talent, overrated. Leadership, underrated.
Dads, underrated.
Just super duper terrible. Absolutely awful. Then he gets on his high horse where he thinks he's cool. He's like, you wouldn't email me if I was an idiot because you wouldn't listen to the show. You listen to the show because we make good points. I don't know that they do. They might listen to the show because it's always on the radio, Colin. You're on the radio for like 3 to 4 hours a day. Some people just want to hear sports and they don't have a choice. So just makes all these weird points. Then there's this one point where he has this rant in 2017 where he says that John Wall doesn't have any star power. John Wall at this point is like a huge star, an enormous star. You want to know what John Wall did in 2017? He made the all-star team. By nature, he has star power.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. he has this quote where he says, he doesn't have star power. Where's his big shoe deal? John Wall has a multi-year, multi-million-dollar shoe deal with Adidas. I don't know what this guy's talking about. Where are the endorsements for John Wall? Just talked about it. John Wall's a great player. He doesn't have any star power. Steph Curry's got star power. Westbrook's got star power. James Harden, the beard's got star power. Aaron Rodgers, the look, the commercials, star power. The look, that's weird. Because I wouldn't call Aaron Rodgers particularly stylish, but I would call him white.
Yeah, and I don't want to.
know.
I'm not assuming that like everything that he's saying is like racially charged, but I don't think that Aaron Rodgers has a look that is anything other than incredibly generic. Like, what is his look?
Right. It would be different. Like, I'm trying to think of a player. Like, it's not like he's pointing out like Kelly Oubre, who like isn't necessarily good, but because Kelly Oubre is objectively very pretty, like he sometimes becomes like the face of, like when he was on the Suns and they had new jerseys, it was all pictures of Kelly Oubre. Not because he's the best player, because he's very attractive.
Yes.
It would be different if Aaron Rodgers was like getting deals because he's pretty. You could even make that claim about like Derek Jeter. Like, yes, Derek Jeter was a great player, but also he was a very good looking dude that would, you know, be lauded for his looks all the time. So like that would make more sense. But I don't know that like Aaron Rodgers, at least in 2017, was known as like a attractive guy. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I will say, and not defending Cowherd, but like the example that you gave is him saying like, oh well, he wasn't as good as Rajon Rondo. Like Rajon Rondo is a black man. Like it's not like he's always saying like, oh well, he's no Ryan Arcidiacono. You know what I mean? Like
yeah, like he does still try to make good comparisons to other players, but like there's certain things in the comparisons where it feels weird, like the Iverson thing in particular, just like. That one was weird because then he said things that weren't true about Allen Iverson. So that's like what kind of comparison you're making. But he continues in this rant where he says that another problem is that like people don't care about the Washington Wizards, who like at this point were like fine, like they had those couple of fun playoff runs and stuff. But he says John Wall's got no star power, no influence in the league, none. Nobody goes to their games in DC. In sports, he's about the 6th biggest star in the city. There are columnists that are more known. That is the biggest lie. I could not name a single columnist from Washington, D.C., and I'm sure millions of people could name John Wall, who got selected to the All-Star game that year.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about?
I think one of the Pardon the Interruption guys is from D.C., right? Like Mike Wilbon or Tony Kornheiser. But either way, neither of them are as famous as John Wall, so it doesn't really matter.
Absolutely not. Then he goes on, he says, everyone knows the Celtics backstory. Like it's John Wall's fault that the Washington Wizards are not a more storied franchise than the Boston Celtics? People in DC don't know the Wizards backstory. I know Washington's history better than the average Wizards fan does. Nobody wants to watch the Wizards. Wall doesn't have any fans. He's in the All-Star game. What are you talking about? Just unhinged. Then he had a weird thing before this rant in 2014 where he thought that John Wall had grown up, but he refused to retract any of the things that he said, even when people pointed out like that his dad died from cancer. Colin Cowherd said, quote, if you're looking for apologies, you're fishing off the wrong pier. But speaking of...
real Justin Timberlake vibes.
Oh my God. But speaking of apologies, in May of 2016, Bill Simmons came on the Colin Cowherd show and live on the air pressured him into apologizing to John Wall. Like an incredible move from Bill Simmons. Just complete non sequitur. Bill Simmons just goes, by the way, have you ever apologized to John Wall? What is this? Like he just straight up calls him out for on live air. It's amazing. He says, that's my least favorite Cowherd take. Just back off. Call it a day. Like he just tells him to drop it. There's a bit of a back and forth where Cowherd and his co-host, I don't know her name, they are saying like, no, he said nice things. He's like, I've said many nice things about John Wall. And then Bill Simmons like, just drop it. Just like, let it go. Apologize. This is so weird. Like he just refuses to back down until Cowherd apologizes. And then he says, okay, I apologize right now to John Wall. You would think that would be the end of it because that was in 2016. But in 2022, Colin Cowherd on
12
his radio
years
broadcast,
after the Dougie in question.
yes, and 6 years after the apology of trying to squash the beef. Then Colin Cowherd on his show is talking about why Draymond Green is great. I think this was during the finals run when they beat the Celtics, but he's talking about how Draymond Green makes his teammates better, even if he doesn't score a lot of points. And he's talking all about how like he impacts the game. And then weirdly, he starts making rants about other people. So he says, John Wall has never made a teammate better. I'm sorry. John Wall was one of the league leaders in assists per game. Like he had 3 seasons where he averaged over 10 assists a game. by notion of how assists work, he is making his teammates better.
Right.
Says John Wall has never made a teammate better. Russell Westbrook has never made a teammate better. Russell Westbrook has also averaged more than 10 assists per game for multiple seasons.
Yeah, famously, when he averaged a triple-double for the first time in 40 years.
Also, he took the Thunder to the playoffs the year after Kevin Durant left. It was like the Russell Westbrook and Friends show, and the Thunder were still good. Like, he has inherently made his teammates better. So just weird two comparisons to make. It says Draymond Green has made every teammate he's ever played with better. Find me teammates Russell Westbrook has made better in his career. How about Nick Collison? Like, come on. There's a ton of players. How about Anthony Morrow? Like, these players
the guy
that
made
no one has
Kendrick
ever heard of.
Perkins look serviceable.
Yes, like there's so many people that Russell Westbrook has made better. So this was like more of like an anti-Russell Westbrook thing, but then he threw John Wall into it for no good reason. And this is the thing that finally got John Wall to respond, because this was circulating on Twitter. So John Wall replied, "Lol, this guy is a joke." And then 5 of the double exclamation point emojis. So 10 red exclamation points afterwards. And that is the only time John Wall responded. And I like that John Wall didn't respond for over a decade. But then once he was kind of brought into a thing where someone was being mean to mainly Russell Westbrook instead, he pops in to kind of defend Russ. I love it. I love that. Perfect move from John Wall. That is the last instance of them going back and forth that I could find.
Well,
but
I would say that's an assist.
Yeah. He's made someone better. And that actually happened. Some random white guy who had nothing better to do than to yell at people for no good reason had a beef with John Wall for at least 12 years because he dared to dance one time before a game started. And that actually happened.
I think Cowherd is just jealous that no one taught him how to Dougie.
Look, that's a thing. Like, and I wonder if this had happened to someone else. Like, the greatest response could have been if John Wall was like, "Look, man, if you want me to teach you how to,
if you want a tutorial,
like,
I
will." Yeah. Like the song is "Teach me how." I will gladly show you what to do. Like, that would have been an incredible response. But also being silent for 12 years, great response from John Wall. Love it.
Oh yeah,
A+ stuff. No notes. John Wall's great. Colin Cowherd's weird. Respect to John Wall. Thanks for listening to this episode of Horror Source, is hosted by Adam Amawala and Mike Schubert. Our editor is Kensei Surabaki. The music is by Bettina Campamanes. The art is by Alison Wakeman. The website is by Kelly Schubert. And the social media is by both of the Horse Boys.
Thank you to our producer little patrons, Polly Burge, Kendra Hadley, Salvatore Testa, Siobhan Ellsbury, Don't Go Chasing Taco Falls, Bang, Bang, Roast Beef Debris, How About Them World Champion, Denver Steam Nuggets, Anna Reed. I got to watch Steph Curry in person for 3.
Bang!
Hi Trish, Nicole Shepard, Chase Underrulo, Mr. Bubbles Plays Ball, Naked Rachel, Josh Isn't Rich, Sidney Crosby is a Vampire, Chelsea's Cousin, Ginger Spurs Boy, and Balls to the Walls. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Horse Hoops and on Twitter at Horse_Hoops because
Horse Hoops was the person at the Wizards Arena who played the song Teach Me How to Dougie at John Wall's request, and Colin Cowherd got that guy fired, actually.
Wow. And banned from Twitter.
And banned from Twitter,
That's tough. That's a tough look. Go to our website, horsehoops.com, for links to some of the many things we talked about today, including Colin Cowherd's bizarre rant, and in more fun news, a bunch of three-point contest footage.
Yes, and if you want to support the Horse Boys, you can go to patreon.com/horsehoops, and you can get a whole bunch of cool content as a thank you for supporting us. You get those ad-free episodes, you can get physical stuff, all sorts of good things over there. And you can also go to horsehoops.com/merch, get Sup Nerds shirts and some other digital merch items, whether that be replays of past live shows or ringtones, wallpapers, all that kind of stuff. And to close out the episode, we're going to put our hands in the middle and say something on the count of 3. What are we feeling, Adam?
You got anything?
Well, this will be, I believe, the last episode before the All-Star weekend, so we could say something in celebration of that. There's the Steph versus Sabrina battle. We could cheer on one of those players. We could pray that the Bulls make a trade at the trade deadline. I would love to, because they're doing that weird thing again.
Well, we didn't mention that Zach LaVine is out for the season and now can't do anything with him, but now we are.
We could say do something Bulls on the count of 3, and then hopefully by the time this episode came out, they did something.
I'm cautiously optimistic they will have done something. I'm afraid that something will be nothing, but that's still something.
We'll try it. We'll say do something on the count of 3.
right.
1, 2, 3.
Do something, Bulls, for the love of God. Stop trying to be a play-in team every year. You're making me go gray.